Stranger Things was never really about monsters. It was about memory, trauma, and what refuses to let go. And season 5 remembers everything, but not in the way that you'd expect. And this is my spoiler review for season 5, volume 2 and 3 put together. I already had the review for volume 1 out on my channel, so go check that out. And the finale kind of gave me a lot to really think about. Season 5 is officially the end of Stranger Things. 5 seasons of supernatural horror, friendships, and trauma all put into one series. All building towards one confrontation with Vecna and the Upside Down. So let's talk about what I liked about this. No matter what, the cast sells the reality of this world. You can feel how worn down these characters are. Behind every conversation, you hear and feel the trauma as it progresses throughout the seasons. The kids feel older, not in a sense of physical aging, but they feel older in experience and wisdom. And can we talk about Vecna? Vecna is a very psychological villain. Victor really does remain one of the most intense villains that this series has had on the side of the Mind Flayer. But not because the power scale isn't speculate, but because he keeps targeting people with trauma. And he doesn't just kill people, he dismantles them with emotional trauma. And season 5 does push harder on that Victor's not just a villain, he's just a product of trauma. And the characters that I do enjoy in this show so far, like my top favorite ones, is literally Max and Dustin. They're the emotional core of this season. Their scenes feel grounded, vulnerable, and completely earned. You see that Dustin's still grieving over what he's lost, especially with Eddie, and you see that Max is still suffering because she was in a coma and she's fighting for her life. They keep this show grounded, and they do keep the emotion when the show does slow down in pacing. And I think that one of the smartest things that's happened in season 5 that a few people might disagree with is that one of the smartest things that season 5 has done was gave us a loop around to season 1. They brought Vecna back to his old traits of just abducting children, and they made Holly the core character in this season as they did for Will in season 1. So you see the correlation between Will Byers and Holly Wheeler. And in that sense, you get to see Will experience from a different point of view what he went through in season 1, because he is able to see everything go down through Vecna and the Demogorgon's eyes. So he does get to witness the taking, he does get to witness everything, and he fully does understand Vecna. The emotional center in season 1 and slightly season 2, but then they started to drift away from him and start talking about more things. But as they stare back to him being the emotional core, they show you that he is the main character of the series. And I know people did have complaints about Will coming out, well, later on in the series. Honestly, you guys can comment below and tell me what you think about this, but I, for one, have realized that Will has been slowly coming out since the beginning of this series. They've talked about it, they've hinted at it, it's been talked about, especially by his best friend. So you guys can tell me what you guys think about that, but I actually did like that they made him come out to show that he is getting over one of his fears is of coming out, which makes him stronger to be able to confront Vecna in a better position. And you know, I do got to talk about that Nancy Wheeler has grown as a character, and her character development has been amazing, because you've seen that she really only cared about what people thought about her, and now she's a gunslinging badass who ends up single. I did want her to end up with Steve, but at the same time, her being single just feels right. It does push her character forward as this independent badass woman. But where there's good, there's bad, and we'll talk about that. The stakes in this show don't stick at all, especially with this season. It feels too safe. Characters survive stuff which realistically they shouldn't have survived. The only thing I can take away from this series, with all the fantasy stuff that's been happening, the only thing that I feel like is unrealistic is how many people have survived these close counters. And with that, the emotional consequences, it struggles to linger in this season. This show has come to full effect and created the illusion of danger instead of just giving it to us. And another thing is that there's too much story for just these 5 seasons. It's completely obvious that you can see starting from season 1, well, exactly, starting from season 2, that they started adding too much story that they can bear. That's how come there's a lot of main characters that get sidelined. There's a lot of plots that don't get resolved. There's just a lot of things that we question that we don't see on screen that's more so, you know, handled off screen. They're just completely forgot about. Nothing really feels unfinished. There's just a lot that's been compressed into this. And we feel that the Stranger Things, I know it did start off with just mainly the core kids, but now we've expanded to more characters in this show, and most of the important adult characters seem to get sidelined, especially in this season too. Like with the adult characters, you see that they're present, but they're never really essential, which does hurt the story. And with season 5, it prioritizes emotional comfort over narrative danger. It wants you to just feel satisfied, but not shaken for some reason. And for a show that's literally just based off of fear and trauma, that's really a strange way to go about this. And with the ending, it does emotionally work. The callbacks, the friendships, the sense of growing up, it all does land perfectly fine. But dramatically, it plays things a little too safe. And with that, it ends up closing the book gently instead of abruptly slamming it. And yes, Winona Ryder still looks amazing as ever. Goodness, she's so beautiful. But this is the end of Stranger Things, and it was an enjoyable ride. Granted, this season could have had more into it, and it could have had more emotional stakes, but thoroughly, I've enjoyed the series. It wraps things up pretty well, and it strays away from breaking your heart. So my rating for this season of Stranger Things is, I give this a solid with snacks. And before I wrap this up, here's my personal ranking of the Stranger Things seasons from best to worst. And I know, some of you guys might get really annoyed with me or question my ranking. At number 1, I have Stranger Things 1, actually. The mystery, the horror, the Stephen King vibes, it still feels completely unmatched. And even though it feels small and personal, it's extremely creepy and so contained. And at number 2, you gotta go with season 3, the Starcourt Mall. Come on. Pure summer blockbuster energy. The emotions are extremely high in this season, and the ending still hurts. It's fun, but it still hits harder than most people give it credit for. And in the number 3 spot is season 4. Vecna's introduction and everything about him is just purely incredible, and the horror is times 10 in this. It just runs a little longer than it needs to. Number 4, we have Stranger Things 5. I know, I'm sorry. It's a solid ending that plays it extremely safe. It's emotionally satisfying, but it doesn't take enough risk. And last, but not to anyone's surprise, is Stranger Things 2. It has some great horror aspects, but some pacing and subplots are extremely underwhelming in this season. So drop your rankings in the comments and tell me what seasons you guys think I'm completely wrong about. But now I want to hear from you guys. Comment below and tell me what plot holes and what storylines did you feel like was neglected that we forgot about, or are they just completely butchered? To be honest, did you guys think that that breakup scene between Nancy and Jonathan was an actual breakup? Comment below and tell me why, and tell me why not. And if you like my vibe, comment below, like and subscribe. And I'm James Hancock, signing off.